This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by Gotta Leave It. How you doing, JD?
Fucking terrible. We lost, and I'm not happy. We finally got our top 10 ranking back because we had a really good tournament. Like our home tournament is freaking awesome, but we wrestled well. We beat 3 top 10 teams. Everything was going good. And today we completely shit down our legs. So fuck. I'm not happy.
Yeah. Well, that sucks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's not your fault. I'm just,
Yeah.
I had a good hour to stew on it on the drive home. So yeah.
Well, nah, that sucks, man. Losing's like the dirt worst, and I know it's not like the same because you guys are like in competitive team sports, but in the military we have like award season, right? So we do awards for like every quarter, and there's like different categories, and then we have like the annual awards, so like for like the best of the year, and then there's like different levels, right? So in the Air Force we have squadron, which is like one section, and then if you win at the squadron level, then it goes up to the group level and then up to the wing level, which the wing would cover the entire base, right? And so I just won in my category for the year. So we're now going up to the group, and I'm like, if I don't win at the group, I'm going to be so pissed. But I'm like trying to be like humble about it because like I have like a reputation for winning a lot, but the annual, I have not won the annual in a very long time at a very high level. So I'm like hoping I get it.
Behind me, I don't think you can see it, but I've got my Illinois Assistant Wrestling Coach of the Year award, and I was a 3-time nominee and never won it. The last time I was up and didn't win it, I drove. I'm like, fuck this, man. I'm never fucking going to this stupid luncheon again. This is dumb. This is a waste of my fucking time. None of these fuckers like me, so they're never going to vote for me. I hate everybody. This is stupid. And then I won it in the year of COVID, and they just gave it away and didn't have to go to the awards banquet anyway. So yeah, now I won it, so I don't need to win it again.
Yeah, I competed at the Pacific Air Forces level for a different award, and I lost, and I was so mad, and I was like, why am I so mad? That's a hard one to get. And I'm like, and then I was just like, because you really are that fucking good, you should have won it, and nobody's seeing it yet. So you need to figure out a way to make them see it next year. And speaking of next year, I'm not going to do Happy New Year type stuff because it's already the 4th. So I think that's illegal per Larry David. Like you get to the 3rd to say that. So today I stopped saying it to people. But do you do resolutions? Are you like a big New Year resolution guy?
No, I don't believe in resolutions. If you have changes you're going to make them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm the same way. Like if I ever waited to make to change something, if I waited to January 1st, I wasn't going to do it.
No, I'm the same thing. I think if I'm the kind of person, if I want to do something different, I got to do something different. My doctor says you got to lose a couple pounds. So I think I mentioned this last time. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just, because I'm not a drinker and my diet's not bad, but I got this wicked sweet tooth. So I drink way too much soda, and we fool ourselves into thinking, well, Coke Zero doesn't really, there's no calories. So you're not really gaining any weight, but that's a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. So I'm on a 30-day, just like challenge myself. I'll challenge myself. So I'm doing 30 days just drinking water.
Yeah. So I've had 2 Coke Zeros today, and I was like, in the afternoon, I was craving it so bad. It's because at lunchtime, dude, I had a killer workout at lunchtime. Like I did almost 500 reps of different types of abs. So like I had like 4. Well, I had like 4 different exercises that I was doing. I'm doing sets of 25, and I got to almost 500. I pooped out. I did 100 squats, and then I did a full shoulder workout too. I tried to do the using my Smith machine to do actual weighted squats, but for some reason, as I was doing like my second set, and it was super lightweight because I haven't done them in a while because I had surgery on my balls, so I have not done anything like that for a while. So I tried to get back into it today, and I tweaked my back going down on one of the squats. It was just bad form, I think, because I'm one of those guys. I put a bench underneath me so that way my butt hits the bench, because if not, I I am like a perpetual cheater when it comes to working out. If I can like still lift something and have bad form, I'm going to go for it and say that I lifted it. So I have to like force myself to not cheat. So
You're
for like
human.
squat, yeah. So for squatting, I have to put the bench underneath me. So I sit down on the bench. As soon as my butt touches it, I pop back up. But for some, maybe my feet weren't set or something, but I think I bent over like at the waist too much. And then I came back up and I tweaked my back a little bit. So I just took all the weight off and did free weight squats.
So I have this a lot. I have not lifted like free weights in a couple years. My chiropractor says because I have a lot of I'm very dense. Like I'm about 220-ish right now. I'm pretty solid, but it's a very thick muscle. Like I'm very stout.
Yeah.
And my chiropractor's like, you don't need to get bigger. You should probably just do like kettlebells and do circuits and stuff like that. So for the last year or so, I've been really, doing kettlebell circuits and like circuit training and that kind of stuff. And I found that I wasn't getting hurt nearly as much, but I was trying to get my workout done before our tournament last week. And I tweaked my back just a little bit. And so I saw my chiropractor just the other day and he was like, yeah, man, you're a little tweaked here. You got to stretch. I'm like, I know, time, blah, blah, blah. And then he also diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. You know what that is?
Ooh. Yep. Yeah.
My fucking foot hurts. So I took the week off of working out and just like took the dog for some hiking, like because the family's been gone. So this has been a low key week for me working out. So so I get this.
Yeah.
This is the kind of talk you guys come here for, right? And Mike and I listen.
Yeah. Well, banter is important. Like I like, as Joe Lanza would say, bring the audience in, let them get to know you, and then they will support you more. And honestly, JD and I have not talked to each other in 2 weeks, so this is just us kind of catching up.
Catching up, yeah.
Yeah.
How was the holidays?
Good, man. So I talked about, I dropped a brace for Impact. So quick plug, patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. I dropped a new brace for Impact yesterday. Cause we finally got some TNA news to talk about. So there was like a bunch of stuff I was like letting it build up over time. That way I actually had stuff to talk about instead of just trying to stretch out like a nothing subject. I actually went and let some stuff build up. But I took a military space available flight over to California, and then I took one back, and it was a cool experience. My family had never been on a military plane. They were quite shocked to jump onto a C-5 Super Galaxy, and the largest plane in the Air Force, and to walk into the cargo bay and see half a dozen military assault trucks on there. Like they're like the new style Humvees that the military has. They're like state of the art type of stuff that are getting ready to go over to a deployed location. So we were on that aircraft that was carrying those things, and so it's like, wow, nobody knows that that's how the Air Force actually transports vehicles. We just we drive them up onto a plane and fly them, and then they had to climb stairs up to a second floor to get onto to get to our seats. And they had like 70 some odd seats, and there's only 10 of us on it. So a lot of people were just kind of like sprawled out in the aisleways. The seats fold down in front of you, so you can just kick your feet all the way out, and it was free. So that was like the best part. It was like free flights. So you got to deal with some noise, and there's no windows on the plane, so you can't really see what's going on, but you just chill. I watched Batman Returns, and I had a good time. Yeah,
that's a good one. I think it's aged decently. We're very low key here. A lot of practice. My family is away for the week. They're staying at my father-in-law's farm up in Wisconsin, so it's just me and the dog hanging out. So just practice. And we start school Monday, so I'm looking forward to going back.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for checking us out right here on the Voices of Wrestling YouTube and the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. You can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere. So thank you for joining us. We took last week off just because I was traveling. I was in California, but we did drop a pretty cool show where we put together. I did a twofer. An overtime double shot. We did Black Scorpion and I believe Bill Watts, and I put that out there for everybody on the Voices of Wrestling. So thank you for checking that out. I did pretty decent numbers despite the fact that it was classic content, but that's been on our Patreon for a long time. So go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. JD, I sent you a big list of shit that we have to talk about because it's been a couple of weeks, so we can't really spend too much time on every single subject. And then I actually updated it since then because I was like, oh shit, I forgot that not only did I watch most of Raw on Monday, like The Rock was there. So I think we have to talk about The Rock too at some point. So I added him to the list. But if we get to go too long, then we'll cut out some subjects and maybe save it for another time. But I figured we start the show off with something that we've been talking about here for a while. JD, where did you first hear that Adam Cole, Wardlow, The Kingdom, and Roderick Strong were going to be the Devils?
I believe we said that on this show some 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, like we fucking nailed it. Now AEW, they weren't really doing a good job of hiding the fact that was who it was, right?
No.
But
no, we pay attention to the show. Like they told you who everyone was going to be for months, almost since day one. Like, I don't know, man. This storyline really kind of went over like a fart, and I'm kind of glad it's done. We still gotta, like with any fart, you got to deal with the stench that's left behind after a little while. But we didn't shit our pants, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, what did you think of the big reveal? Because I got to be honest, and maybe because I had been kind of like shitting on it for a while, and I knew exactly what it was. And the way they did it is exactly how I envisioned it, with like small details. It's like, okay, the lights are gonna go out, and it's gonna be cool, right? Because they have to do the lights out thing, because fucking God forbid we can't stop doing ECW gimmicks from 1996. But okay, so we still did the lights out thing, and I was pretty underwhelmed with with the whole reveal. I was like, okay, well, if they have a good reveal, maybe they can turn this thing around. But I thought it was shit.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. We had we had a tournament on the 29th and 30th, and it was at our place, and we had to, set up and take down. So it was super busy. So I wasn't able to watch the pay-per-view live, and the feedback was so meh that I didn't watch it. It's the first AEW pay-per-view that I missed. And I only watched it stuff on YouTube clips or on Twitter. So I don't know. I guess it came off about as good as it could expect it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
not very good.
No, yeah, not very good. I'm just super glad that it's over, and that we can finally move on. Looks like MJF is going to be out for a while, because as we called right here on this show, Samoa Joe is your new AEW World Heavyweight Champion. We've been predicting it for weeks. It finally came to fruition. Bogo Max is going to be taking some time off. He's still doing his stupid War of 24 gimmick, where he actually he's been removed from the roster page and all. They're really working that deal, trying to make us think that he hasn't been re-signed for a couple of years now. But
you know who told us Max was re-signed with AEW? WWE.
Yes. I don't think they're lying about that.
No,
they would love to kill the gimmick, right?
Yes, they did kill the gimmick. They would love it to be real and steal another one. Like they would love to take the most recent AEW World Champion and bring him over. But yeah, they're not playing along. I don't know why. I don't know. It's like everything with Max just went out with such a whimper, right? Like the AEW's ratings were down today because quite frankly, the tournament's over. Right? The tournament was a draw. It worked. So I'm sure that Pat Buck can cry because people actually wanted to watch wrestling. And Jimmy Jacobs, who managed to fuck up the pay-per-view in a way that only Jimmy Jacobs could. So, you guys get to do your shitty bullshit, but I'm very sorry, guys in the room, but people actually wanted to watch wrestling. I know that hurts.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I said this before, but I just feel so bad for the casuals. I just feel really bad for them that they had to endure wrestling on a wrestling show. And not everything was spoon-fed to them and explained to them like they're fucking babies. And I just feel really bad for them, because that's who I care about.
There's nothing that quote-unquote wrestling fans like to do more than bitch about the phantom people that they make up in their head. Right? Because AEW has no casual fans, and I'm tired of them saying, here's how you know that AEW is doing a good job, is when the bad faith Twitter people start complaining about it. Right? When the Julian Weekses of the world start telling you that, it's just getting bad, then they're onto something and it's working, because AEW should be completely different than WWE. And when they're trying to be like WWE, they're bad. Yeah.
And when they're trying to be like WWE, we get This Is Spooky chants on a fucking wrestling pay-per-view with a monster and a young lady with a witch's hat doing coven type stuff. Like that's what we get whenever they're trying to be like WWE.
Jimmy fucking Jacobs.
Yeah.
Sorry, King of the North here to make sure JD hasn't lost his mind since it turned 2024. You missed the beginning of the show. I bitched about wrestling for a good minute and a half. So already did.
Yeah. Yeah, but so I did get a chance to watch most of the pay-per-view. I'll be honest, look, I don't care if people told me it was a 5-star classic. I ain't watching what's her name, Julia Hart versus Abaddon, and this is spooky chant. Like I'm just not gonna do that. Like
I'm done.
Like I'll be honest, I'm not above a whole lot of things in this life, but I'm above watching that. I'm too good for that. Right.
Mike, the entire reason this is called the Mike and JD show and not Brace for Impact is because I lost it. I lost it on the air when Taylor Wilde was dealing tarot cards during a match.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy Jacobs went and ruined that whole thing. God, I could just personify everything I hate about pro wrestling into Jimmy Jacobs. He might not even be responsible for half the shit that I hate, but it's just very convenient for me to look at that guy and blame him for everything.
You know, he really is a modern day Vince Russo, right? And maybe he's getting a bad rap. Like maybe he shouldn't be compared to him. But the reason why I'm comparing him to Vince Russo is because everything that sucked in TNA got blamed on Vince Russo. And then it turns out like he did have a lot of shitty stuff, but there was a lot of this other stuff that was like Jared and Mantell that they were actually booking. But when it shit the bed, like people were feeding it to the dirt sheets. Like, oh no, that was Vince Russo's idea. And then he was like, he comes out later. He's like, wait a minute. Like I had nothing to do with the last rights match between Abyss and Sting.
Not only was it like fed to the dirt sheets, but the crowd very famously at a TNA show, there was a Fire Russo chant
during the last rights match with the.
It was during the last. Is that what it was? Yeah, that was Fire Russo. Here's what I want, and I'm trying to will this into existence. I really want a Fire Jimmy Jacobs chant to bust out one day, but the AEW fans are just too fucking nice. Like your Wrestle Joy people and stuff like that are just going to make sure that doesn't happen because everything has to be happy.
Yeah, I think that guy is protected, and it looks like AEW and Tony Khan kind of cleaned house, with a lot of their OGs. Like they let go a lot of VPs, VP of different divisions and things like that, like Kevin Sullivan and Raphael Morphy and Dana Massey and all these other people. And like Jimmy Jacobs is kind of his right hand man. He's on the private jet. He's doing storylines with him, booking all the shows. And Sanjay Dutt and Pat Buck are like right there with him. And a lot of the originals like QT Marshall, he's out. Obviously Cody left a long time ago, but like a lot of the people that kind of built the company are out of the way, and now he's got this whole crew of people. And it appears that it's very much a roller coaster ride. Where when before it was like 85% awesome all the time, right? But you still had some wacky shit, but the wacky shit was like it wasn't so bad that it would overtake the rest of the show to where that's all you were talking about. Like by the end of it, it was just kind of silly stuff on the undercard that nobody really cared about. It was just kind of fun stuff for people to do, right? But the wrestling was right. But the wrestling was so fantastic, you just didn't get mad about it. You just didn't care. But now it's kind of closer to 50-50 almost, with the exception of the last month or so when they did the Continental Classic, where that really overtook everything. But this last pay-per-view where they said everything was going to change and we're going to be back to the way we were, we did get that with I think like 4 matches, and then like the rest of them were just kind of like okay, and then there was like 3 that were like just really bad,
A couple things. What the fuck did you expect when you put Abaddon on the show? Right.
Yeah, but you know what? But when they hired Jimmy Jacobs, that's exactly what I expected would happen. I fucking like we called it. We called it right here. Like we're going. That's the shit that we're going to get, and that's exactly what's happening.
Here's what happened. Like I'm saying, all I want is to be the best. Okay, in my perfect world, I'm at a show in Chicago and a Fire Jimmy Jacobs chant breaks out. Perhaps I have the guts to start that chant. I don't know if it'll catch on, but he's awful. He's absolutely terrible, and I'm convinced he was behind the finish of this is what broke me, right? As I'm on Twitter, right at the end of the tournament, we're cleaning up, I'm looking, and this Adam Copeland Christian match, everyone's raving about it. They're like, this is great, this is great, this is great. And then they overdustied the finish, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And Bix was the best because Bix just tweeted a picture of Jimmy Jacobs. And of course I had to tweet Jimmy fucking Jacobs. And both tweets caught some fire. It was kind of fun. So yeah, no, that decided right there that I was not going to give AEW my money. I cannot, when a friend has a problem, right? You cannot enable their problems. And right now they have a Jimmy Jacobs problem. And I cannot I cannot enable Tony Khan's bad habits. Like I'd rather have him more cocaine and less Jimmy Jacobs.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of AEW fans need to go to Al-Anon, like WrestleJoy, like because they're very codependent.
Mhm.
There's like they show up to those pressers afterwards, and like their hard hitting questions are like, "Hey, what's it like being so great at everything?"
Can you believe I worked for these people for a year and a half? I can't believe it lasted that long. I can't believe it. I can't believe they didn't fire me long before that. Before they eventually
Yeah,
did.
yeah. We don't have to mention what the articles were, but there were a couple articles that you tried to write that they turned down, right? Because they were like, "No,
Not
this was
not
slightly
positive.
negative." Yeah,
Not positive enough.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Dared not to worship at the altar of Cody Rhodes. Sin
Yeah.
number
So,
one.
I feel like we're getting a little bit of a reset. I thought Dynamite overall was pretty good, despite the fact that
Yeah,
the
it
ratings
was.
were a little bit low. They're establishing some new characters. They're pushing, Swerve as to be a top guy. I think we're gonna get Swerve and Hangman again, which I'm all for. I think that's awesome. And so, I think the ratings will probably dip a little bit while we continue to, get over some new stars. But I think it's a
It
necessary
happens.
evil. Yeah.
It
But
is. King of North says, which is worse, WrestleJoy or Steve Fall wanting to touch John Cena at the presser? I'll pick on WrestleJoy. They're nice people. Steve
yeah.
Fall is a virus that needs antibiotics.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Steve Fall is very much like Julian Weeks. I'm gonna get to it later, but he started a rumor on Twitter, and I don't know how people picked up on it, but it's we'll go ahead and get into that.
Let's do
We'll
it.
flex a little bit. We'll flex because I touched on it on Brace for Impact yesterday. So Steve Fall, dipshit. We should have had this ready for bad tweets, but Steve Fall, is doing some math here, right? Because TNA, their new TNA Plus streaming app is under the Endeavor banner, right? Which means they hired Endeavor to manage their app, right? And Endeavor obviously owns WWE, so you got that thing. Then Triple H goes and says that he has a big announcement today, and that they're going to have like a live preview show of the upcoming year on Peacock, right? And then also TNA said that at Hard to Kill, their worlds will collide at Hard to Kill, right? So he puts 1 + 1 + 1 and gets to 7, and all of a sudden starts to think and put out there in the ether that maybe WWE is buying TNA. Or that maybe WWE and TNA are going to have like a working relationship or like a partnership, much like they already have with All Japan, which isn't the case, which that was never the case.
Not the
So
case
he
with
just kind of
Japan
threw that out there, and then all of a sudden people started to buy into it. And next thing you know, we had like a day and a half. Thankfully, Mike Johnson, who, despite the fact that his dipshit partner and the owner of his website, fuckface Dave Scherer, is an idiot. Mike Johnson's decently respectable when it comes to what he puts out. Like, you could pretty much trust it. I had to throw some water. He's like, I don't know why I'm writing this, but people have been bringing up that there's a rumor that WWE is buying TNA. This has nothing to do with TNA or WWE. They have nothing to do with each other.
See, and this is what wrestling fans are so fucking dense. Like anytime it goes up, we're gonna have news coming up. They think it's like this earth-shattering shit, and the reality is, earth-shattering shit just pops. There's no
Yeah.
warm up to it. And what was the announcement Triple H had? Money in the Bank is going to be in Toronto.
It was very much like that fucking Tony Khan Wembley Stadium one, where it was like, oh, Tony, that was already announced. Now you're just telling us when the tickets go on sale. Like it was very much like a fart in church with Triple H today.
I mean, like, but again, I don't blame him on this one because he was
Yeah.
like, he was 1 for 2. So he's batting 500. He's like, there'll be a former Raw champion on Raw. And it was right. The Rock. Hey, huge news. I got a big surprise. You're buying TNA. No.
Like, wait a minute.
No, we're going to Toronto for Money in the Bank. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, and this is wrestling fans, especially the ones who have some slight reputation. Like, they're so fucking dumb. Like, it just, I can't. And didn't we go through this 2 years ago when Mickey James was in the Royal Rumble?
Yes.
Didn't we hear the same fucking thing? And what happened with that, Mike? Which again, 2 years ago on this show, I said they're not gonna have a working relationship. Mickey's in the Rumble because Vince forgot she fired her.
Right. Mickey was in the Rumble because up to that point, she had already been in every goddamn Rumble that they had for women, right? She had already been in them. So, yeah. And there was no working relationship, despite the fact that people were fantasy booking Roman Reigns versus goddamn Moose.
That did happen. That did happen.
Yeah. Booker T was trying to book Moose in the Royal Rumble and keep him strong. I'm just like, guys, y'all are crazy.
Guys, so like WWE doesn't want working relationships. They just want stuff. They just want what you have. They want to
Yeah.
take it over. You know who's not happy about that is All Japan fans, quite frankly.
Well, look, they brought over Charlie Dempsey, who's Regal's kid, and this
Mhm.
very much looks like Regal just trying to send his son over to Japan to get some more reps, right, and get him
Which
in
is
there with a guy like Nakajima, right, and
which
Nakajima
is
beat the fuck out of him.
beat the fuck out of him because that's what
Yeah,
Nakajima does.
yeah,
First of all, Nakajima is running the greatest gimmick in the world right now with
he's the
All Japan.
best.
He's like Antonio Inoki reincarnated is his gimmick right now. He's doing
Yeah,
all kinds of strong style stuff. He's got a lion on his jacket. Like he is the greatest troll in the world. And
yeah,
like
he's
the president of All Japan's like, why are our fans hating us? Like he couldn't
yeah,
figure out why because they want no one in Japan wants any pro wrestling. This is what WWE fans struggle to understand is that not everybody loves you, right? Like in Japan, there's a very functional scene that's existed independently of American pro wrestling for 70 years now. And they don't want you over there. And very quickly, they had to make sure that everyone knew they didn't have a WWE relationship by going and booking Takeshita.
yeah,
So, like, look, we're
yeah,
bringing in him. We're in bed with them. Although I'm
yeah.
sure they would have liked to have been until they realized that they're actually on the upswing, and All Japan is
They're
kind of hot.
Yeah, they're doing great. Kento Miyahara and Nakajima, that match was fantastic. And then I heard some people said that the Charlie Dempsey match wasn't that good, but I don't know. I heard from my cousin Joe, and he was like that match was awesome. So I'll be honest, I have not seen Charlie Dempsey wrestle, but you know what? I think it's a good idea for NXT. It's super smart to send people to Japan for a little bit. You know what I mean? I think that's a good idea. And if they had something, if they were trustworthy actors, right, and they could send somebody to Japan for 6 months, and then All Japan could send somebody over there for 6 months, I think that works for both sides. But you just can't trust WWE to do that because every time they create a partnership with one of these smaller promotions, they swallow them and let them wallow and die. That's what happens. So, but it just progress and evolve, right? Evolve.
Mhm.
They evolved into nothing, right? It's more like
Memphis.
devolve. Yeah,
Yeah, I
more
mean,
like
it's just they got a bad history of just pestilence basically. Like every time they go
yeah,
somewhere else, stuff they kill everything. It's like when the Carthaginians invaded Rome and they went and salted the ground of Carthage so nothing would ever grow again. Like that's just what
yeah,
WWE does. It's like it's fine. Like I think
yeah,
it's great. I've been long advocating Tony Concho. They should send lots of their talent over to Japan just to get better. Megan Bain is
yeah,
currently in the middle of a Stardom excursion. If what I'm told,
yeah.
good. And I'll be honest, I never watched Mariah May wrestle before, despite our good buddy Scott E Wrestling telling me I should. She's good. She strikes hard. She got some wallop in her pops. I like it. Everyone should go to
Yeah.
Japan to get better.
Yeah, everybody. All right, we got off a little bit. All right, so
We do.
The Rock. So The Rock returned to Raw this week. He beat up on Jinder Mahal. It was a great segment. Jinder came out doing the whole like anti-American gimmick, and then The Rock came out to defend our country from an evil Canadian, which I happen to love. Those Canadians, you can't trust them. They're always coming over to America. Yeah, you have to build a wall. Build a wall around fucking Idaho and Wisconsin and all those northern tier states. But
I'd be perfectly happy building a wall around Wisconsin.
Yeah. But so yeah, he showed up, he beat up on Jinder, and then he teased a potential matchup with Roman Reigns. I was gonna talk about this. So our buddy Diego, and guys, I'm gonna get to you guys in the chat. Thank you guys, everybody, for being in the chat. I'm gonna get to some of your comments, but Diego said people think they will do it in Australia. Okay, JD, where did you first hear? Like, I was like one of those guys early on, right? But here's why. This wasn't, and so people like to use the word cope, right? And I don't think they actually know what that means. It's kind of like that scene from The Princess Bride. Like, you're using that word, but I don't think you know what it actually means, right? So not everybody was coping when they said Australia. The reason why I said Australia originally was because there was a report like 2 weeks ago that the government in Perth were trying to get WWE to book The Rock for Elimination Chamber. I was like, okay. And then and I was thinking, I was like, well, maybe The Rock, just based on his schedule with not only the UFL, but maybe his filming schedule, maybe April is out for him, right? Maybe maybe February in Australia would be a better time. And he, it's like, shit or get off the pot time. He might not be able to do WrestleMania. So maybe Australia is what would actually work for him. So that's why I thought that maybe Australia would be a possibility. Is WrestleMania the better play? Of course. But if you can't get him for WrestleMania and you can get him for a stadium show in Australia and it's a sold show and the government's paying for it, why not try it?
So this could happen. We don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
This angle just started. We don't know where it's going. It very well could be on the Perth show. Yeah. It's not. You and I both know what's going to happen.
No.
Adrenaline in my soul. Cody Rhodes won't main event the show. I wish I could make that work better, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm not that talented. No, it's dude, I'm sorry. Okay. You know what's really funny to me? Right. Punk goes in. Cody Rhodes trying to finish the story. There's like options you can do, and then The Rock comes back. Everybody goes, "Oh yeah, wait, you're The Rock. You're more important than everybody else." And quite frankly, WWE's been building this story legitimately. Been building this story for like 3 years.
Right.
So you have to do it now.
So Cody was only finishing the story because they just haven't been able to get The Rock. Right. And they extended it out one more year, hoping they could get The Rock. That doesn't mean that Cody is less than. Cody is Cody. He's a very big star.
It absolutely does mean he's less than.
He's less than The Rock, but it doesn't mean he's not still a big star and that he's not still important to the company. He is. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that he wasn't right to jump from AEW. I happen to think that he's better in WWE. Like he fits better there, and he is making a ton of money. He's headlining all these big shows. I don't see it being an issue here, but I know that people like to jump on Cody and kind of make fun of him.
Hey, I'm very happy for Hacksaw Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. But but yeah, no. You know what? I really don't think they should do The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania this year. I really don't, and I'll tell you why. I just don't think you want to give that match away in Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is kind of a shit town with some shitty sports teams. They got probably one of the worst football teams out there. The Phillies suck. The Philadelphia Flyers suck. Temple University sucks. Like they all suck. So I don't think you want to do Philly either.
I can't even follow that up.
No, that was just me just shit talking Godzilla because I know he's gonna listen to this tomorrow.
And go ballistic tomorrow morning when he's at the gym listening to this. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, like, realistically speaking, The Rock versus Roman Reigns is literally the biggest pro wrestling match that can be offered right now.
Yeah,
it is.
Yep,
it is. And Cody and Punk are just gonna have to, hopefully it'll work out next year. Hopefully Punk doesn't, break something or tear something and need another surgery, which we're ticking down on that, by the way.
Or try to assault Triple H. So
there's a ticking clock out until that whole thing goes south. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
that's gonna be. Well, you'll know something's wrong when Nick Hausman starts tweeting an awful lot about how bad things are in WWE, because it's not like that guy has a thought independently going through his head.
Nick Hausman is a stupid, dumb, fucking idiot. What did Punk say at the presser? You empty-headed dumb fuck. That what he called Hangman Page. That's Nick Hausman. So I had him later in the show, but we're going to talk about this Nick Hausman Jericho thing. With the accusations, let's be real gentle on that, because you know what I mean. We don't want to venture into that territory because Jericho has not even been accused of anything. Like there's been no allegations, and that's been my whole problem with the story. Because Nick Hausman goes on his podcast and he's kind of alluding to possible improper behavior from Chris Jericho.
He compared him. Mike, don't sugarcoat this. He compared him to Harvey Weinstein, for God's sakes.
Yes. So he says that Jericho's this bad guy, and then in the next sentence or whatever, like seconds later, and then he starts talking about Harvey Weinstein. And here's my rule, and I'm going to throw Harvey Weinstein into this rule, right? If you're talking about somebody and you compare them to Hitler, like they better actually be Hitler, because if they're Hitler, then we all need to sign up for the draft and we got to go to war and take that bastard out. Right. Like that's what we have to do. And if you're comparing somebody to Harvey Weinstein, one of the most egregious sexual predators of all time, then we got to get that guy in prison and hope he dies in a fire. Right. So when you do that, that's what people start to think of. So what he did was It was irresponsible. It was disgusting. It was clickbait bullshit. If he has a story, he needs to run with it. And if he has a story where he's got people like, it could be off the record, whatever, anonymous, whatever. But if he's got like detailed information about incidents with Chris Jericho, he needs to run with that story and report it, and people will back him up, and they will come after Jericho, and Jericho would deserve it if it was true, right? But he's just alluding to stuff, and then he's just using it to plug his podcast, which I think that he should get a vote for the most disgusting promotional tactic in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. I'm going to write him in for what he's doing here, because this is bullshit. Honestly, and then he's coming out against Wrestle Talk, saying Wrestle Talk's defaming him because they accuse him of backtracking, which that's not that most egregious thing in the world. So now he was threatening to sue them for defamation or whatever and trying to get their contact information. So now this guy's trying to go after people defaming him, which is pretty fucking rich considering what he did to Chris Jericho over the weekend. Now, if Chris Jericho's guilty of some shit, let's get him out of here. But as of right now, he hasn't even been accused of anything. There's no information. It's all bullshit at this point, and he needs to shut a stupid fucking big dumb idiot trap.
Dude, Ronan Farrow worked for years to uncover this Harvey Weinstein thing. Years. The man worked and put sourced work together and changed the face of Hollywood, right? And it took effort and it took balls. So like, to put yourself on that kind of a level, like what Ronan Farrow did, is disgusting. And then you don't even have the ball. If you got, and again, this whole thing only happened because Chris Jericho and Stephen P. New were arguing on Twitter. Like, this is like the most fucking B-list, boring bullshit, alliteration, that you've ever seen in your life. Like, it just, and then it's like, okay, dude, you had this information, but you're going to sit on it and do nothing with it until your buddy Punk goes, hey man, go after Jericho, talk about that, blah blah blah. Because you have no freaking stones of your own. If you got something, do something about it. If you have some news, be a freaking journalist and do something. I hate the wrestling news media, and I wouldn't take a job at Fightful if they asked me, quite frankly.
Yeah, I once asked them for a job, but I'm at the point now where even if they offered one, I wouldn't accept it. So yeah. But and I really think that if the wrestling media had the balls, they would kind of, band around and get rid of this guy, right? Because he's making them all look bad at this point. Because dude, this is like, it's one of the more egregiously like bullshit things that's ever happened. He's now like ringside news, right? Like he's like, this is Steve Carrier, ringside news. The entire wrestling media have gotten together and they don't want anything to do with that Steve Carrier guy. Nick Hausman is getting into that. He's in that territory now. And I think that they all need to say some shit and speak out about what he tried to do.
Like, that's the thing, is it's much easier to be clickbaity and, be all innuendo than like be Dave, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to be Dave. Dave, it's work and effort to be Dave. And I don't respect anybody that's ever hosted a podcast with Eric Bischoff. It's just very simple.
Yeah. And honestly, him and John Alba both. And Conrad Thompson. Yeah, fuck them.
Fuck them all.
Yeah, because clearly they're like, truth isn't really all that important to them, right? They like these guys just want to be famous, right? Which is why whenever people were connecting the dots between Chris Jericho and Kylie Ray, he said nothing until he got onto his podcast like a few days later. Right. He just let that stuff out there and fester. And then he's like, throw his hands up in there. I never said her name. Yeah, but everybody was connecting it to you and you didn't say anything. So what he then did was, everybody should really listen to my podcast. Here's my podcast information. And he starts using it to plug his show. It's like, you don't care about victims. You don't care about any of this stuff. You're trying to win a Twitter beef with Chris Jericho.
Because you're trying to appease CM Punk, right? A guy who your relationship started out with when he tried to embarrass you in front of millions of people. Let us not forget that one. Like this, there's very few people that I respect less. And if we ever get to the point where we're that gross and clickbaity, like it's time to throw up the hands, because like being famous is stupid, especially being wrestling famous is stupid. Right.
Yeah.
And you threw away all your credibility, and basically, because you're irresponsible, you drag poor Kylie Ray into all this stuff, who really just wants to be left alone, right? She's kind of made that about, like, she's been cool, and she's someone that struggles with mental health issues to begin with, and you let this happen. So again, like you said, you win a Twitter beef with Chris Jericho to entertain Stephen P. New. Like, this is stupid. Like this whole thing is just stupid and embarrassing.
Yeah, let me give a shout out to some of the folks in the chat. IO Productions. What's up, IO? Thanks for being here, my brother. We already talked to King of the North a couple of times. Norbert Kubek, the ace of NXT, Charlie Dempsey. Gerard Ryan in the house. TNA big new distribution deal coming any day now, buddy. It's gonna happen one day. You just keep checking it. You just keep checking it. Amazon. Greg Blanton, Amazon jumping into the wrestling business heavily. Amazon, raw to Amazon. I don't think is that really like. I don't think that's a stretch to think that.
I've been saying it for months.
Yeah. But thanks for everybody for being in the chat. I'm gonna do a quick plug and then I'm gonna get to the rest of our topics. Head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. We've got tons of content coming out. And after this show, after we get done recording this podcast, JD and I are going to do an overtime show where we're going to do kind of a little bit of a tribute to Killer Khan. And we're actually going to watch the his 1987 feud with Hulk Hogan. We got like a 30 some odd minute clip on YouTube that we're actually going to watch. So so everybody stay tuned for that. That's going to drop on our Patreon. I'm going to drop the full video. So you're going to watch the matches right along with us. But if you're an audio guy, audio will be up there too. So that's going to be really cool. So please check that out. And thank you for being here, everybody. So real quick, before we do our Killer Khan stuff, let's just do, rest in peace, Killer Khan, man. He was a pretty cool character. I know like Rich especially is kind of annoyed that everybody only connects him to WWE, but he was big all over every territory in Japan. And I first saw him in World Class because I had this old like tape, Legends of World Class, and his match with Terry Gordy was on it. And I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. So I've seen that match a bunch of times. So yeah, but Killer Khan, man, rest in peace.
Inspiration for the great O-Khan.
Yeah.
Because O-Khan basically lifted his gimmick from Killer Khan. So nothing wrong with it. Yeah. It's pro wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Killer Khan hasn't wrestled in 25 years or 30 years, something like that.
30 some years. Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick. Kevin Dunn retires. What are your thoughts on that? Is he all elite?
That's my Kevin Dunn impression.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's a bad radio. Yeah, he was shaking his camera, guys.
I was shaking my camera. Sorry, it's for the YouTube folks. Is he all elite? Probably not, because he already got his disciple and Mike Mansory there, who does less camera cuts. I think he's done. No, I think that Kevin Dunn rides quietly into the sunset.
Yeah, I think he's got fuck you money. Dude, I wish I could say who made the joke, but a friend of ours made the joke about, man, how long before Mike Mansory in AEW starts to gripe and try to get out of his deal there to go to WWE, because at some point they're probably gonna reach out to him. It wasn't one of the reasons why Mansory left in the first place is because he knew that he couldn't replace Kevin Dunn.
Kind of.
Am I making that up?
I thought I'd heard that, but at the same time, one, they are training people in NXT. Two, the thing that people aren't talking enough about in TKO is how they get rid of the redundancies. And the day is coming quicker and quicker where WWE and UFC just have the same production team.
Yeah.
Because why hire more people? That's just the way these things go. They overwork people until they can't work anymore. So no, I don't. If I'm Mike Mansory, do I want to go back to WWE? Maybe not. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it just depends on what his life goals are, I guess. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. There's a bunch of people in the chat here that want to talk free agents. That was the big hook for this show. We got free agency frenzy, is what I'm going to call it. In baseball, we call it the hot stove. Like in the NFL, we got the first day of free agency. I wish that all contracts came due at the same time, and then like Dave Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp and Mike Johnson and everybody would have to just like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and all these guys and Ken Rosenthal in baseball and Wojnarowski in basketball. Like they're just like working the phones 24/7, figuring out which player is going to go to which team and all this and that. So free agency frenzy. Lots of people have just gotten out of their deals. WWE 90-day clauses are up as of a couple weeks ago. A lot of New Japan contracts are expiring. AEW contracts are expiring. And Mercedes Moné been a free agent for a while, man. And we thought, I think we did, last time we were here, we were all in on her going to WWE. And then Joe and Rich thought maybe she'd be going to TNA. But it looks like she's very much back in play with AEW, and that she's very likely to be debuting there imminently.
I think we had this conversation a year ago. I'll believe it when I see it. The sources that I trust say it's probably going to happen. I would assume it's probably going to happen, but I don't think you can count it until it does, especially with her, right?
Yeah.
Because she could be a bit prickly when it comes to the contract negotiation stuff. So I don't know. I think it could be a game changer for WWE, or for AEW, excuse me. Can a major woman be a major draw? Because I don't think she was with New Japan, but New Japan's also hard to watch, right?
Yeah.
It's not like watching there's the Access show, but Access is Access. Like, do a bunch of Sasha Stans come with her if she goes to AEW? My instinct is no, but I'd like to be proven wrong.
Well, I think AEW would do a better job of promoting her. They just have more resources domestically to be able to promote her on a bigger platform.
For sure.
Their production is so much better. Like you said, New Japan's hard to watch. Yeah, New Japan's like hard to watch because New Japan's strong. Like domestically, their pay-per-views are always usually produced pretty poorly. And they always look pretty bad. So I think their latest one was probably looking their best, but for the most part, those domestic pay-per-views did not look very good. And she didn't do too many matches for New Japan proper, and I think she only did a couple matches for Stardom. And Stardom, every Stardom match is a pay-per-view, right? Like all their events are pretty much pay-per-views.
I know they have a lot of pay-per-views. I don't know if they're all of them. I don't think all of them because they do a lot. They tour a lot. Like they run a lot of shows, but I am not a Joshi expert by any stretch of imagination, so I don't even want to pretend. I don't know. I think that I think AEW kind of needs to land her because like the last wave of guys has gone so in WWE's favor that I think they kind of need a big win right now. So if I'm Tony, I think you kind of have to open up the checkbook.
Yeah, and I don't care if it's for $5 million. I think you're going to overpay for her, but I think this would let everybody know that he really is serious about making his women's division like a
serious
co-equals with their men's division, right? Like isn't in TNA, it's not so much that TNA had like the greatest wrestlers in their knockouts division, but they were presented as co-equals with the men, right? And like there weren't as many women's matches, but very often the women would be main eventing those shows, even probably to the detriment of pay-per-view buys. But they did it just because they wanted to present it as being co-equals. I think AEW still has not done that. They've headlined a couple of episodes of like Dynamite and Rampage with the women, but a pay-per-view, a major event, they have not done that yet. And I think with Mercedes Moné, you might be able to get there, especially if they're going to monthly pay-per-views.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's been a women's story that could have main evented a pay-per-view in AEW, realistically speaking. Like there's not one there that exists.
There was a good one with Britt Baker for a little while, and I think they just headlined a Dynamite with it. I just can't remember who her opponent was.
It was Baker and Rosa. It was Baker and Thunder Rosa. It was that awesome. It was an awesome match.
Yeah.
It was a Dynamite, and at the time they were only running 4 pay-per-views a year. So I don't want to say that was in like March or something, so the timing wasn't right up. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's been a women's story that's been hot enough. Now you get Mercedes in there, maybe you can.
Yeah, they got Mercedes, they got Mariah May, who I think is going to work out pretty well for them. And they just debuted Deonna Purazzo off of Impact Television, and people keep telling me that nobody watches Impact, but boy oh boy, when Deonna showed up there,
heard a lot of cheers. Yeah. I also heard a lot of people go, Deonna sounded very nervous, and I'm like, no, Deonna sounded like Deonna. Like if you watch as a couple Impact guys, I could tell. Like I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like, no, that's just Deonna's voice. That's how she sounds.
That's just how she sounds. I wouldn't really read too much into it. I kept thinking that like the voice would change over time in TNA. It just never did. Like that's just how she sounds. Yeah. And that's okay. As far as in the ring, like she's up at the top right there with everybody. People keep comparing her to Serena Deeb, but guys, I'm going to tell you the reason why you keep comparing her to Serena Deeb, she's also Rip Rogers trained. I think Serena probably helped train Deonna. But Deonna's about 10 years younger. So, Deonna's,
she's better. Let's be real. We don't have to sugarcoat it. Deonna's
okay.
better.
I told Jeff Hawkins that she was better than Serena Deeb, and I don't think he's talking to me right now. It was like the time I told him that Joe Burrow was a system quarterback. He kind of threw his hands up at me.
Deonna, is there anyone more overrated than Serena Deeb?
I think Serena Deeb,
2 years.
Yeah, I think Serena Deeb is a very good technical wrestler. I don't find her to be interesting. I just don't.
No, I agree.
I think Deonna is interesting.
I agree.
She isn't. the only thing that holds her back, the promos aren't even bad, but her voice is kind of what holds her back a little bit. But when the way TNA presented her as like a major star, like you believed it when she walked in. I think the virtuosa character and the gimmick is awesome. I like everything about her presentation. And if you're asking me who I'd rather have, I'd much rather have Deonna than Trinity.
100%. Because again, like I said, she's a decade younger, right? You're gonna get more out of her. I think she's better on the microphone. I agree. She has this kind of squeaky. Maybe you could say whiny. I don't know. Like it's just her voice. It's just her inflections. Like I would honestly, she might be the best one there right now.
You can make that argument. Yeah, you can make that argument. I think some of the Joshi fans might try to assassinate you for saying that because they do have some Joshi.
They would try to do that anyway. They're like, he is great, but she's barely on the show, right? Yeah. Riho's barely on the show. Like
Riho shows up, does a match, and then you don't see her again for like 6 months.
If you're lucky, 6 months.
Yeah.
Like Riho's on like the Andre the Giant schedule. She's touring the territories, you know?
Yeah. King of the North says that Athena is lurking. Yeah,
Athena. Good.
Yeah. When she gets called up from Ring of Honor, when she gets called up from from NXT, she's gonna be doing pretty good. And then he also says Megan Bay and Kamille versus Chris Statler and Willow Nightingale. So let's go and talk about but let's talk about Kamille. She's on WWE's radar. I had her pegged for TNA, honestly, because she's coming off of NWA. Nobody really knows her yet. She's got this great look. She's super got this presence about her. But I was like, maybe she needs some time in TNA before she heads over to AEW or WWE. But it looks like WWE is kind of interested. So that's probably where she's heading.
I mean, she's good. She's got a great look. Like she's pretty jacked. And I don't know, they did all right with Eli Drake, who also came off of NWA programming right to WWE, and that worked out just fine.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe they can take Bram too. That would be cool. We can get maybe because I think John Gurburk is back in WWE, isn't he? So I think he's.
Oh, is he really?
There. I think he went back. I'm not. Yeah, I think he went back. So maybe they redo the photo there with Bram and John Gurburk that I love so much.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Bram sucks.
Trinity leaving TNA, set to return to WWE. This one hurt my feelings a little bit because look, I'm not a fan of her in-ring work, but I just thought that she was good for TNA. I thought like her presence or everything, the whole gimmick, everything about her. And then the bell rings and you're getting 3 stars, sometimes less. So that sucks. Right. But I thought she was just a good person to have in TNA. She always came across as the biggest star on the show. But it looks like she was just kind of using TNA to be a stepping stone to get back to where she always wanted to be, which was WWE. And now that Papa H is back in charge, she and her husband's a big star there, clearly. So it looks like she's heading back over there, man.
Which Uso is she married to? Is she married to Yeet Uso or Drunk Uso? I'm not sure which one it is.
Is Yeet Uso not Drunk Uso? I don't know which one was getting in trouble. I really don't know.
I think the Uso with the long hair, with the full long hair, was the one who kept getting the DUIs. Right.
Dude, I honestly I don't know. And I think that's to their advantage because you don't know which one to be mad at.
That's a great call, actually. When you have a twin, you can get away with stuff.
Yeah. Okay, here comes our fact checker. Oh, not the King of the North said both of them. No, but John.
One of them has more.
John Muse is Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy.
So yeah, okay, yeah. Jimmy's one with the. Which one is? Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, she's married to DUI Uso.
Yeah.
Has Trinity lost the match in the company? I don't think she
has.
No,
she hasn't. She's only been there 6 months. So and you know what? I don't care. That part doesn't bother me. She's gonna lose the title to Jordynne Grace. She's gonna finish up her dates. I hate the way that TNA treated Deonna on her way out. They knew 6 months ahead of time Deonna wasn't coming back, and they beat her for 6 months straight. And it got to the point where beating Deonna doesn't really mean anything. So now if Jordynne Grace beats Trinity at Hard to Kill, which she's very likely to do that, then it actually means something because you beat somebody, right? You didn't just beat somebody that's been on a losing streak for 6 months. So that doesn't bother me. And she hasn't had that many matches either. She beat Deonna a couple times. She beat Alicia. She beat Mickie James. No big deal. DUI.
Did we steal that from Joe? Sorry, Joe. It's a good one.
Yeah. But we got there's more free agent news.
Chat's popping.
Nick Nemeth. Nick Nemeth debuts in dude, JD, you're wrong.
I know.
Did you watch Wrestle Kingdom?
I didn't see the whole show. I watched what Nick Nemeth did, and I have to be honest with you, is the best he's looked in years.
Dude, he turned me around. I did a complete 180, and I know that people roll their eyes at me because I'm very temperamental and I can do 180s pretty easily. But but I thought he looked like $1 million sitting out there at ringside. I loved the fight with David Finlay, and I loved the presser. I loved his promo afterwards talking about the importance. He made it seem like this new global title that means absolute shit. He made it seem like it was the most important thing in the entire world to him. I was like, damn it, he sold me, man. Like, hell yeah. Look at him. I'm curious to see what he's going to do there in New Japan.
It was a good debut. Let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, he's always been a pretty good worker, right? And he could always cut a decent promo. It just seemed like he was apathetic his last bunch of years in WWE. Like it came across like he was just collecting a paycheck, right? Like just kind of going through the motions and didn't really have anything to sink his teeth into. So maybe now that he's motivated, and that's going to be the big question. Is he motivated to use these places to get himself back into WWE so he can do one last little run and then work main event for 10 more years? Or is he just motivated to prove all the doubters wrong? And I'm curious to see exactly how that works out for him.
I want to see what actually happens when he's in the ring in New Japan, because the work style is different than WWE. You've got to put on a little bit extra. People had the same knock on Moxley when he jumped, right? When Moxley when they announced Moxley was going to the G1, people were like, I don't know if this guy can do a G1. And then it turned out, he's actually really great at wrestling. So let's see what Nick Nemeth still has in the tank. Because listen, I don't love the guy, but cannot deny what I saw with my eyes.
Yeah. Diego agrees. He said, I thought he was going to follow the path of the WWE releases from the mid 2010s. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah. But when he showed up in New Japan, I was like, okay, this guy's taking himself seriously. He's the TNA surprise, isn't he? This is from King of the North. I think that he will be. I don't think that him going to New Japan is going to preclude him from going to TNA. I think he'll probably end up working both.
They have a working relationship. No problem at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as I can tell, there have been no reports saying that Nemeth has signed an exclusive contract. He could just be there to work a program, right? Maybe a program or two. Maybe then they can extend him, book him for days for G1 or something, let him do a G1. A lot of these guys that think they're super workers, they want to go and prove themselves in Japan, right? Especially guys that were in WWE for a long time. That take themselves seriously. It seems like we don't have enough proof. We haven't seen him in the ring yet. The Dolph might be one of those guys. A guy that doesn't take himself seriously and does not care about wrestling. Rick Boogs. He just retired. So he can't be in WWE. He doesn't want to wrestle anymore, which you know what? I agree with you, buddy. Just stay retired.
It's fine. Like, did anybody have Rick Boogs is going to be someone that was going to be a guy? No, it's fine. Yeah. Thanks for not wasting our time. That I appreciate.
Yeah, I respect it. Honestly, I'm glad he's just came out like, look, if I can't be at the top, I don't want to be here. So he's gonna go, run a gym and sell smoothies and steroids.
Great name for a gym. Yeah. I had a joke, but yours was better, so I'm gonna let you win that one.
Sorry. Alexander Hammerstone, MLW. He became a free agent on January 1st.
Speaking of smoothies and steroids.
Yeah, speaking of smoothies. And now he's booked against Josh Alexander for a hard to kill, man. And I love that match. And I like Hammerstone and TNA. I think it's great.
I'm curious to see what they do with him. I like Hammerstone better as a heel than a face. I think he just makes for a better heel. I think it suits his talents and suits his persona better. And Josh is so goddamn likable. I'm excited. I hope they sign Hammerstone because I think it could be a really good marriage. Like, I think they need a guy and Hammerstone needs a home. And I think this could work really well.
Yeah. When it was coming up that him and Kamille were both like, they're becoming free agents at the beginning of the year. They were like my top two choices for TNA to sign. Obviously, aside from like, Punk and Ospreay and all those people that we knew that they never really could sign. But I was like, look, at TNA's level, and I think that people are kind of coming back down to earth a little bit, right? Scott D'Amore got everybody a little bit too excited, and he even backpedaled a little bit, so much so that our friend BQ he did a whole podcast about it, and his thumbnail said Scott the Backpedaler. So I got to give a shout out to BQ. I was like, look, no matter how long I stay in podcasting, I'm never going to beat that thumbnail. So I hate you, BQ. But that was great. So now we're kind of getting back to reality a little bit. And I was like, Hammerstone is like perfect for the level that TNA is at. I love coming in.
He's pretty good too, though.
Yeah,
right. And he's
yeah.
got a little bit of a throwback, but he's not quite Brian Cage. Like he's not that, because Brian Cage does cool shit. Like Hammerstone's good, but he's not that. Right. I think he could be really good in this company. Like I'm really excited. I'm more excited to watch him and Josh than anything else that they announced in Hard to Kill before this, to be honest with you. So I'm in. I'm excited.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree with you there. Andrade set to return to WWE imminently. I almost said imminently.
Indubitably.
Yeah. He worked the C2 and got out of his deal somehow. It expired, I guess, on right after World's End. He dropped a fall to Miro there, and they finished up that storyline. And looks like he's going to be heading back to WWE here really soon.
My internet went kaputski on me for a second, so I have no idea what you just said. Sorry, Mike.
I'm introing you. So speak on Andrade going back to WWE.
He is a malcontent. He hated being there. He tried to fight everyone in his sights. He was miserable. He cannot be happy anywhere. Now he's Hunter's problem again. He can be with his wife, do mid-card stuff for the LWO, and whatever. He looked good on his way out, though, so.
Yeah, I thought he was very impressive in the C2. And if that's the guy that WWE gets, great for WWE. But we don't know how long that would last. This guy has always been a problem everywhere he's gone. He was miserable in WWE when he was miserable in WWE when he was there. He was wanting to get out of his deal. He got out of his deal, went to AEW.
He was miserable in AEW. Yeah. He was miserable in CMLL. He was miserable in New Japan. At some point, maybe it's you.
Yeah. And King Lewis says, can he take Miro with him? That would be great. I would love that. And so would Miro. Miro would love nothing more than to go back to Papa H. I think that's exactly where he wants to be. So also becoming a free agent, speaking of New Japan, 8th grade Adam Page becoming a free agent, Clark Connors.
That surprises me, actually. And I don't know. I guess NXT can pick him up or something like that. I mean, I'm not a huge Clark Connors guy. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, it'd be fine, I guess.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of his. Like, he's a good little wrestler, but I don't know. He reminds me of Jeremy Allen White. Like, he just like this little guy with muscles trying to play a big guy. It's like I don't know. I've just never been into Clark Connors.
Yeah, he's fine. He's whatever.
Yeah. Elias, he's now Elijah. And he is I guess he's going to be trying to get signed by somebody here pretty soon, but he is not retiring. He is a guy that I felt like he would just be, performing at shitty dive bars, doing guitar stuff and singing songs, but looks like he's going to keep wrestling. He did a whole vignette, which looked like it was filmed by the TNA production staff, to be honest with you. Like I thought that was just something that they produced. So I get the feeling that's probably where he's going, but who knows? But Elijah is no longer Elias.
Now you can really take that honky tonk man rip off to the next level and just do this for the next 50 years. So I could care less. I just does for the rest of his career.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, this is no longer free agency friendly, Frenzie. We're going to end it on a positive note, or maybe a positive note. I don't know how you feel about this, JD. Tanahashi, new president of New Japan.
It's very common in the Japanese business world where like a work guy will take over, right? That's happened many times. Muto took over All Japan. Well, famously, Baba and Inoki took over, started their own companies. Hashimoto started 0-1. Like, this is a crazy thing that's happened. It did seem like Obari was not very popular anymore, and I guess saying that he's willing to lose Okada might have been the final straw. So, let's see what happens. Let's see what kind of a businessman Hiroshi Tanahashi is.
Yeah, and it very well could be more of a figurehead. I don't think he's going to be out there counting beans and negotiating contracts. He's probably got guys that do that stuff for him,
Yeah, but it's Japan. It's different. Like, it's not uncommon for a top wrestler to become office in Japan. It's happened numerous times. So, it's not that crazy because it's Japan.
Yeah, and their partner promotion, Noah, I think Marufuji, he's like the top guy there too, right?
I don't That's a Justin question. I don't know if Marufuji's with the office or not.
Okay.
But I mean, I know he's got something on. We should ask Justin that next time we talk to him, actually.
Okay, cool. Well, you know what? I think we covered it all. So thank you everybody for being here. Wow, we did it in 1 hour and 4 minutes. We went super rapid fast on the free agent ones, which is pretty cool. Hopefully we did it in about 10 minutes. I'll clip it for YouTube. But yeah, so everybody head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. Tell your friends. Make sure you're a subscriber to the Voices of Wrestling network here. Give us a big thumbs up, like us, subscribe to the Mike and JD show YouTube channel, and give a big like and comment on the videos and do all that good stuff. We'll be back out with some more content this coming up weekend. We're going to be doing a watch along with some Killer Khan stuff. I'll be doing some more TNA talk this coming up weekend, as well as more news trickles out as we head into Hard to Kill next weekend. Go ahead.
Mike, and I had something to announce too. Mike is actually going to guest host with us on Superhero Speak this Sunday night. Yeah. We are going to review the Iron Claw. So we're actually going to simulcast it on the Superhero Speak YouTube channel and on the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. So I'm very excited to have my two worlds collide. I'm sure people think that now taking over our show, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. We'll talk Iron Claw, and then like randomly I'm gonna bring up how awesome Blue Beetle was, because I like hearing you guys talk about comic book movies. I'm like, hey, I watched one, guys. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I just want to let you guys know it was awesome.
I'm curious how the rest of the show is gonna go. Quite frankly, the Iron Claw talk will be fine. Everything else, not sure. What's gonna be interesting?
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, if you guys start talking about like ancillary characters from third-rate comics, I'm like, guys, you lost me. But I can usually hang up with just about any talk when we're talking about movies. So, but hey guys, that's going to do it for us this week. I want you make sure that you're a subscriber. Make sure you check out Voices of Wrestling. We got all kinds of stuff dropping on the show. And I wanted to give a plug, Garrett Kidney and his TNA podcast. He's got the TNA History Pod. They've got some cool content out that just dropped. Final Resolution 2006. I was listening to that today. So everybody go check it out. Check out the flagship. Do all that good stuff. I really appreciate you guys for being here. And until next time, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A game. Made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A game. Made no rain.